After hearing all the negative talk about Rin Itoshi's character, it's my job once again to actually address the character of Rin Itoshi. I have another video about this if you want to watch that and then come back to this, or watch this one and go to that later. It's your choice. And what we're going to be going through in this video is addressing the claim, quick recap of Rin's story, examples of real life psychology relating to this, example from the Bible relating to this through Sasuke Uchiha and Seishu Onagi, and final thoughts. So before we get into the video, make sure to like, hype, comment, share, and share the video so it rises through the algorithm and doesn't have a downfall like Rin. So the thing is that Rin has regressed as a character, as Rin basically went destroyer mode, and his whole training purpose was to not go into destroyer mode, and he's basically setting the game for Bluelock. That's what most fans are mad about. So let's actually go to the beginning to actually understand all this. So we all know from childhood his very own personal interests were smashing toys together while dueling, trying to crush other things like Jenga blocks and jump on birds. Even when he watches TV, he's just in love with destruction. It's the one thing that he's immersed in. But his true ego is to be all beat up, fight someone amazing, destroy them, and then die, a life risking destruction. But there's something that also kept him going in his life, his cooler older brother Itoshi Sai, who also has been able to do cool stuff like making food taste better, taking the blame for him, buying him ice cream, and taking awesome photos of Rin. His most important cool big brother factor is, however, being good at soccer, being undefeatable. It's the second thing Rin has been immersed to, and when he watches his big bro's crosses, he states he wants to be strong and cool, and wonders what it's like to be the world's best striker. But as soon as he's still wondering if he can become the best, Sai, the kind big brother who is Rin's sun sign, says he can become the best in the world after him, regressing Rin from wondering if he could become the world's best striker to the second best striker. And when Sai asks before he heads off to Spain what Rin's playstyle is, Rin states it's thinking about the bad area where he can get goals off of Sai's passes. So if Sai gone, his goal was to catch up to Sai, but because Rin can't do that because Rin's a genius and Sai's a talented learner, this was his first regression, making Rin have to regress himself to a thought process of a talented learner to keep his end of the covenant they had. Then when Sai comes back home, after everything Rin had been through to just try and keep their covenant, Sai just breaks it within just a few words, saying that he's, instead of being the world's best striker, he's going to be the world's best midfielder. So in Rin's mind, Sai had betrayed everything they had worked up to. And this isn't the cool brother he grew up idolizing his whole life. After their 1v1 with their fates and dreams on the line, Rin loses, meaning he won't get to live that dream with Sai again. But Rin's speech shows how he wasn't on the same mindset of Sai. Sai was always trying to be the best in the world, while Rin was trying to be the best in Japan, and states without that dream, he has no reason to play soccer because of Sai's awesome plays as a kid is what got him into the sport in the first place. But Sai doesn't console him, but instead tells him he doesn't need him in his life and to never use him as a reason to play soccer again. When Sai leaves, it's like Rin's favorite person in the world abandoned him, which begins a lot of Rin's bad emotional traits heading into Bluelock, like obsessive fixation on Sai, social isolation, and extreme perfectionism. Revenge behavioral traits, tsundere vibes, and depression, but here we are to see how he is purely obsessed with him and refusing Sai's last order to him, which was to not use him as a reason to play soccer. But he still uses him for that reason anyway, but not to be the best with him, but instead to crush him, to ruin Sai Itoshi's life. Even stealing Sai's words of tepid and the soccer is a war battlefield. First his playstyle, then his way of talking. It's an unhealthy obsession of stealing everything from Sai and making it his own. And we can see from games where he isn't playing, he tries to isolate himself from others, especially the buzz scene, as he was the only one to sit alone. In the U20 exhibition game, he tries to copy Sai's bilingual with his weak foot. It's an interesting parallel to see him trying to use a talented learner's technique and left foot, both of them being opposites of himself, because he is a genius and a right-footed person. But in both these instances, he's selling himself short this way. In chapter 139, Rin gets traumatized this time because Sai has once again massively improved the gap between them for the second time, making Rin feel lonely again. When Rin finally awakens his destroyer mode, it's like the Nine Tails. It seems like a cool power up, but it's slowly breaking him deep down inside. Instead of working with Isagi to get the final goal for Bluelock, he almost lost the game. But he makes up for it by finally beating his brother in a duel. All this time, Rin is acting like he wants to crush his brother, but deep down, he just wants his approval and for Sai to be the one who wants their relationship to be good again. Like, he was even conflicted about going to see his brother's tour game. When Sai walks over to Rin, he thinks Sai is finally going to apologize or at least praise him for at least defeating him, but it's just Sai adding insult to the wound. So Rin converts his obsession on Sai into a new one for Isagi as the placeholder until he can crush Sai, because Sai praises Isagi. Sai for the third time had controlled Rin's character growth once when they were kids, by declaring Rin can be his number 2, second by telling him to never bother him again, and third by praising Isagi right in front of him and never apologizing to him. Rin declares that even with acknowledging his destroyer mode, he needs to become something new to destroy Sai and Isagi. So you think he's finally gonna get some character growth away from what we've seen so far. So Rin seeing Isagi win man after match against Mangiant City must have given him trauma to all of Sai's awards, and Sai and Isagi both being better than him. And since he was playing against Mangiant City too, took this as the perfect opportunity to upstage Isagi, in which he did, scoring a hat-trick against them and getting the #1 bid amongst the Blue Lockers, stating he is going to kill Isagi, just you wait. When Nagi asks Rin about his reason for playing soccer, what drives him so hard, he compares himself as a baby having to give it all he has in a world. He was brought into a soccer world Sai Itoshi brought him into, and when Rin destroys it, he will go to hell. Even with Isagi in the final championship game of the NEL, Rin is doing fine not using his destroyer mode, as he didn't use it against Barcha. And until Kaiser scored his Magnus goal, Rin was doing fine. And when he sees Kaiser being a more important rival to Isagi, and they are both reaching a level beyond him, it's destroying his world once again. In the exhibition game, he did it for a different but yet similar reason. In both scenarios, he has been slowly warming up to his peers, in a way collaborating with Bachira, Isagi, and the others to certain degrees. They devoured his soccer, his 1v1 matchup with Sai, his storyline, and Bluelock invaded it all. It pissed him off, especially since Sai was about to defeat Rin. Rin was about to take defeat, but Bluelock saved him from that defeat. But he wanted to be the one to stop Sai alone. Whether it be a win or a loss, he wanted to take it by himself. He wanted to be the solo avenger. And in the BM game, he had Nanase, a disciple, so he was slowly warming up to him until he went berserk. And now his world is breaking again, as the one he is trying to crush has reached a level beyond him and has a bigger current rival being Kaiser. Rin feels abandoned yet for the third time. Every time is when someone close to him power creeps him and starts not to look his way. This is all a mental pressure to bring out his true ego, a near impossible force that makes him have to nearly die to destroy them all in an all-out battle. He absolutely destroys BM but doesn't shoot because he obtains temporary schizophrenia, and this is the second time he's made a play that almost sold his team the game. He does it every time he goes into beast mode, believing all his shots would be lukewarm in his brother's eyes. So this is also the third time he is looking for his brother's approval. No matter what phase he is in, the character traits from the beginning still reside in him, and I hope this is all starting to come together. His trauma, obsession, schizophrenia, and inferiority complexes all created a phantom Itoshi Sai too powerful for Rin's own mind to overcome. That's how much Sai has damaged Rin, all because he wants to get his big bro's approval, as that's what's got him into soccer in the first place, when his big bro approved of it in the first place. Isagi was the temporary mantle to bear Rin's destructive impulse in an ultimate clash goal. This is where I have to refer to Nagi real quick. Both of these characters scored their ultimate goals because they had to turn into something else to help them score. For Nagi, it's running to rail to help him score, and here it's Rin not being able to handle Sai's impulses, so he scales it down to Isagi. There is more parallels between Rin and Nagi, and I will talk about some here, but I also talk more about them in the video of the downfall of Rin Itoshi, so highly suggest you watch that. They go hand in hand. However, scoring this goal made him understand his impulses properly, and that was for the worst, as he was obsessed with crash shots. With everything on the line was his perfect restriction goal formula, which Eagle tried to fix in the build up to the U20 World Cup arc, with him getting mental training to release his fixations, and this is what y'all are here for. The monk says he must find his true essential mind. The problem is, similar to Nagy, he was brought into the sport because of the actions of a talented learner before he knew anything about the sport or cared for it. His whole purpose of soccer was always Itoshi's side. Rin was kind of right. Releasing your fixations is near impossible, especially by relying on yourself. Especially because the way Rin handles this is wrong. Like in the same chapter 2, you can see it. Like Kaneshiro laid out the crumbs, so y'all just didn't see it. Rin's true essential mind is wanting to destroy Isagi and Sai, the one who brought him into soccer and his adaptable rival. But the ego he uncovered through his blissful impulse was wanting to score goals while destroying himself. Anything that interferes with that is an independent. He claims to purify his desire and make a beast mode without the urge to destroy his default setting, and his goal still is almost a crash shot. He is very lucky he didn't bump into Isagi, or that would have been a sold chance right there. And Ego claims Rin has reached the status to fight as a hero, which isn't Rin. He isn't a hero or a villain. He is an avenger of death. You have to keep in mind there was no mental pressure because it was a game against Nigeria, the weakest of the group. Against the strongest in France, he does gain that mental pressure again. But before talking about that game, what happens before the game is just as important for my point too. Like in my Who Scored a Final Goal video, I talked about the bathroom scene as it shows Rin's fixations are starting to leak out once again. So it shows he didn't get rid of his fixations, only suppressed it, and you can only suppress it for so long, as his goals are still the same deep down, having Isagi be his ultimate restriction until he can destroy his big bro once and for all. As Rin talks about destiny, with it being him and Isagi each other for number one, that is the relationship they have, which Isagi abandoned momentarily in the NEL to have that relationship with Kaiser, and even in this game Rin wanted to crash into low-key to score, something I'm pretty sure the France team is aware of, and something the England team will push even further when they play. And for the third time, I'm going to say it, Rin is going to get a red card and make things even harder for the Blue Lock in that game. But then that stems another problem. His mental pressure is growing as Isagi is ineffective, which means his one lifeline to make him do good in this game is gone. And when he abandons him to take over Karasu's system with deception, Rin feels abandoned for the fourth time, which makes him give in to his impulse once again because he was left behind again. He was abandoned by someone so dear in his life, potentially screwing Blue Lock's chance to steal a point against the strongest team in the tournament, France. Now we can dive into the supporting factors outside of the manga. So I'm sure you all have heard the term relapse. It's not lapse, which is a brief one-time occurrence where someone briefly returns to a substance or behavior. A relapse is a more sustained returning pattern of use or worsening of a condition that existed prior to that treatment. Part of the process in an addiction treatment, healthcare providers generally view a relapse as a common and expected part of recovery rather than a total failure. It often simply indicates that a treatment plan just needs to be adjusted. This happens to people who are addicted to drugs, alcohol, people they idolize, and most recently, doom scrolling. They start off in doing this whether through curiosity or a bad event happened to them, forcing them into it sometimes even randomly. The thing is, if it made them feel pure bliss, their dopamine will be hooked on it, as always needing more. But what is the dopamine effect? Dopamine is a type of monoamine neurotransmitter. It's made in your brain and acts as a chemical messenger, communicating messages between your nerve cells and in your brain and the rest of your body. Dopamine also acts as a hormone. Dopamine, epinephrine, and norepinephrine are the main catecholamines, a label based on having part of the same molecular structure. These hormones are made by your adrenal gland, a small hat-shaped gland located on the top of each of your kidneys. Dopamine is also a neurohormone released by the hypothalamus in your brain. To simplify, it is known as the feel-good hormone. It gives you a sense of pleasure. It also gives you motivation to do something when you're feeling pleasure. Dopamine is part of your reward system. This system is designed from an evolutionary standpoint to reward you when you're doing the things you need to do to survive. Eat, drink, compete to survive, and reproduce. As humans, our brains are hardwired to seek out behaviors that release the dopamine in our reward system. When you're doing something pleasurable, your brain releases a large amount of dopamine. You feel good and you seek more of that feeling. This is why junk food and sugar are so addictive. They trigger the release of a large amount of dopamine into your brain, which gives you the feeling that you're on top of the world and you want to repeat that experience. So for Rin, his feel-good, blissful impulses always happens when crashing into people to score his goals or receiving kindness and approval by his big brother. And relapsing is when you fall into bad old habits because of a bad event happening, causing you to run back into what your dopamine presents to be your feel-good pleasure moments. So when Rin gets abandoned by Sai, that's his worst mood he's ever felt, making this his revenge dopamine. Whenever something doesn't go his way, his mood will kick in, making him think of Sai and Isagi, the one Sai praised instead of him. And when Rin wants to feel good because he can't suppress his fixations any longer, he gives in to temptation and starts to crash into people. His is even worse than most people because he started creating illusions of Sai, bringing up what I said earlier about the dopamine triggering moods, and with congruent memory kicking in, all he can think about is the bad version of Sai and not the good version, because he is trying to never be happy and isolating himself from everyone and just trying to bring the worst version of Sai so he can give in to the full revenge story. So each time Rin tries to become something new, he relapses back to his blissful impulses. And I mentioned how Nigeria was the weakest team. It's kind of like the first week of being sober, completely focused and being able to do what you do best. But then because of your environment or dopamine memories, you will start to see your old life when walking around near alcohol or drugstores, or even just the mention of it will make your mind want to succumb back to those good feelings. And when things start to go bad, you just go back to those feel-good pleasures because why not? So facing Nigeria was the easy part. Facing a team like France, that would put his mental pressure in a peer challenge that tested him, and he failed. And with him feeling that same feeling of abandonment from Isagi, he decided, screw it, I'm just going to stop resisting the impulses I've been suppressing and make Isagi pay. Now, I said I was going to bring up the Bible, and I purposely worded the whole addiction part as if Rin was a lustful person, and he is. Not sexually, but in a different sense. His is an insatiable or uncontrollable desire. And while he did try to purify, he didn't listen to Proverbs 3-5 to trust in the Lord with all your heart and not your own understanding. Fighting off lust and human flesh is a hard battle you have to go through every day. There are no breaks. Every day your lust and human flesh will be tested. Every day your human flesh will test you to try and act in the ways the world and the devil wants you to act. Eagle's plan was to suppress Rin and not make a permanent fix to him. Eagle's a smart man. I have faith that he's a smart man, like Sai. If Rin gets the validation and fix he actually needs by Sai's approval or apology, Rin's ego may die or start to peter away, which isn't good for Jinpachi ego. Which is why Sai is the way he is with him. When he was a perfect brother to him, Rin became too reliant on him, and now he has become too reliant on Isagi, always going to the bad area or trading passes to him, to the point where his playstyle has literally regressed in this game to where he was when he was 10 years ago. Besides the nutmeg on Loki, he has literally only made plays relying on Isagi the whole game. This is something he used to do as a kid with Sai. So he's literally regressing to that 10-year-old stage. Now he is similar to Uchiha Sasuke of Naruto because his goal also changed from killing his older brother to getting revenge and then learning his truth. So that gave him a new mission to destroy the leaf and get revenge for his older brother. Then after killing Naruto, which was the last thing standing in his way to reforming the shinobi world, and after that he lived a life trying to atone for his sins. Like Itachi said, and I believe chapter 401, I can't find the exact image, I can't find it right now, sorry. I know he said it though. Sasuke is a black canvas that can be molded into any color. Rin is kind of the same thing, but he is more of water, not a black canvas. When his ego is high, it's like boiling water, but when it's calm, it's like a suppressed, gentle water. Which is what I think the purpose of his aura being water is, to show his emotional level and how his unhinged personality grows into a devilish monster form where it's like bubbling monster gases, eyes coming out of it. It's like a destructive lake in a sense that is boiling over, which is the point of his destructive aura. It's like a bunch of CI monsters, in my opinion, just rising out of Rin. That's what I've always saw it to be. It's probably not that, but that's just my own viewpoint of it. Honestly, from here, I can see Rin learning the truth about Sai's story before, during, or after the Spain game, but that's also another problem, because just like Sasuke lived even after he killed his own brother to avenge his brother, Rin will probably still play soccer for the reason of avenging his brother against Spain, the country that ruined his big brother. And that is still playing soccer for the purpose of Itoshi Sai, which I think Kaneshiro will have him play in La Real for. But the problem is he's still playing with Sai's fixation. So fixing Rin without nerfing him is hard to do, because the last time Rin and Sai played together was when Rin was trying to be Sai's shadow, and he can't revert to that during their time in La Real when they are together, or when they beat Bunny and afterwards towards that arc if Sai decides to stay with the team. I think the best way for Rin to heal is to help his brother, but make him promise to stay and help him win the U20 World Cup, but acknowledging that Rin is the superior of the two, or making Rin the world's #1 striker. But the problem is, if Rin feeds into his reliance on Sai, and Sai is the reason for Rin winning the U20 World Cup, it's back to square one again. And if Sai leaves, and the only way it doesn't go back to square one again is if Rin grows up and becomes fine with Sai Itoshi leaving him again, as Rin can still play club football with him later on. He needs to be fine with important people in his life just leaving and moving on from him temporarily. And just like Nagi and Rail, he needs to find a way to have a mutual on the pitch relationship with Sai that doesn't hinder his growth by making foolish shots to show off to his older brother. This goes to show even after his Spain game, Rin's problems won't immediately go away, and there's a chance he relapses even if Sai abandons him or apologizes to him. Rin might regress. So there's just so many negatives because of Sai's impact. There are just so many bad circumstances Rin could still go through, and Rin and Luna is a whole different story, as I believe Luna has a future role in the Itoshi Bro story, which seems like Rin will always just be regressing. But to give my final thoughts, I believe Kaneshiro has used Rin to show how much of a factor old childhood habits and your dopamine can stunt your growth. And he really shows the dark side of addiction, obsession, sibling inferiority, and superiority issues, and to a degree, isolation. Both Rin and Nagi are examples of sometimes people just can't be saved by others if they can't save themselves. He may never actually get out of this obsession loop for his older brother, and I can see why this upsets fans, because it's like Vegeta. His character was tied into Goku's Onto the Buu saga, where he finally stops clinging onto his toxic rivalry with Goku, then Super reverts him back to that phase because the plot demanded it. Thankfully, the moral arc fixed it. I think people think the same way of Rin, as they think he is just a plot device to just not have any character meaning without Isagi. But the problem is his whole obsession isn't really with Isagi, it's with Sai. But because his brother isn't around, he needs a new toy to obsess over, and that is Isagi, the light to his darkness. Kaneshiro does a really good job exploring psychological themes through Rin, but the main problem is because it's mainly been recently explored at the expense of Isagi and no other character, Kaneshiro hasn't had time to deep dive into Rin's problems without Isagi being there, because this is Isagi's story. So yes, it's gonna feel like Isagi is the only function for Rin, while Isagi is just a placeholder. So my final thoughts on this is, if Rin is a bad character and regressing, I say yes and no, because it's a mixed bag. His character storyline makes sense, even if people call him a crybaby from that. He is a good character for Kaneshiro to convey lots of dark themes in brotherhood. He has always laid crumbs out about Rin's relapsing and addiction problems, but because this is an Isagi-centric manga, people may fail to truly understand Rin, and hoped he would become what they liked him for in the past and not like him for what he truly is, which is why so many people are pissed with Rin's training not being a permanent fix. It's a pure example of how people can go sober but relapse due to bad situations, or not handling this situation properly can lead to it exploding and becoming an even worse situation. I've experienced that too. So Rin regressing makes sense, and it's good he reverted because it gives more to do with his character for the time being, before Sai comes back. And it's the opposite of Isagi, who is always overcoming obstacles. Rin's story is with him struggling with the same one, and lots of people have that. It's really scary, because writing this and talking about this now has made me realize there's a chance that Rin may never overcome his problems, and I'm similar to him in terms of always regressing myself, so I might be cooked in the future too. Anyways, I'm really tired from typing and talking. Hopefully this made a little bit of sense. If you're struggling from addiction or any mental problem, please reach out for help. there is always someone who can help you. Like Itachi said, when you try to do things yourself, you fail, so rely on others. And once again, in Proverbs 3-5, trust in the Lord with all your heart and don't lean on your own understanding. And until the next video, stay blessed. Suki out.